Good morning. So today I was thinking about Sundays specifically, and how I kind of pitch a little bit of a fit every week when it comes around because I've got so much to do, and I kind of wrestle with this whole taking the seventh day off, taking a rest on the seventh day because I've got, this plate full of things that have to be done. And it's really hard for me to stop what I'm doing and focus, according to what the word has said about the seventh day, the Sabbath day. So, yeah, I'm going to look at that in a second. So, Laura Ingalls Wilder's account of her family's life in the Midwestern United States was always one of my favorite things to read when I was growing up. We didn't have the books at our house, but every time we would go to my grandparents' house, I would make a beeline. As soon as I hugged my grandparents, I would make a beeline for their bookshelf, and I would grab their Laura Ingalls Wilder series, and I would sit down on the couch, plop down, and I would open it up. And usually, if we were there for a couple of days, I would get through the whole series from, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books, maybe somewhere around in there, 7 books in the series. And so then by the time that we were ready to go home, I would have read the last book. And I would usually still borrow that last book because that was my favorite one. It was These Happy Golden Years. So I would borrow that and I would take it home with me. In the first book of the series, which is Little House in the Big Woods, I believe, Laura brings forth like this philosophical question that we've all wrestled with, through the ages. What is Sabbath and what does it mean? Laura hated Sundays in this book. I mean, she's talking about it as like a little girl who is growing up in this place where she wants to play, but she can't because she's expected to sit quietly on Sundays. And she would listen to her pa or her ma read from the Bible. And that's just kind of what they were allowed to do on those Sundays. Playtime was out of the question. So one day on a Sunday, I think this was chapter 5 of that book, she lost her temper and she snapped, "I hate Sundays." And her pa corrected her, and he told her a story of when his dad was a boy. Their Sabbath rules were even more strict. They didn't do any reading. They didn't have any enjoyment of any kind. They had no fidgeting allowed. They had no playtime. And on this occasion that Pa was telling about, his father, Laura's grandfather, and his 2 brothers had just finished building their own sled. It was a wooden sled. It was really nice. They had done the woodwork. They had done all the runners looked really good, and they couldn't wait to try it out. But the thing was, they had just finished it on Saturday night, right before they were supposed to go to bed. So they didn't have a chance to try it out before Sunday, and they couldn't test out their new creation. So in the quietness and the stillness of that Sunday afternoon, Laura's grandfather's father fell asleep in his chair. And so the 3 boys sneaked out of the house, and they all piled on their brand new sled at the top of the hill, and they flew down the hill straight into one of their pigs. So then all 3 boys, and there was a terrified pig on the sled with them, all 3 of them were making this unearthly squeeze sound as they flew right by the house. And Laura's grandfather looked up and saw his father standing in the doorway watching them go by. Always made me laugh. So the 3 boys got off the sled at the bottom of the hill and they went back to the house. Nobody said anything, but later on that evening, their father took them out to the woodshed for a little bit of discipline. So this morning, I was reading in Exodus 31, and I found 2 characters there, only one of whom is mentioned somewhere else in the Bible. It's in a genealogy in 1 Chronicles 2:20, but I really haven't heard much about these guys. In fact, hardly at all. I didn't remember them at all when I came to the reading this morning. So, but they're really important because they illustrate a good lesson, and I'm kind of surprised that I haven't ever thought about this before. But the first one is named Bezalel, and that name means in the shadow and the protection of God. And Oholiab means the divine Father is my tabernacle. And Bezalel and Oholiab are skilled craftsmen. So it says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, see, I have chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, the son of Hur," who was the guy who had held up Moses' arms with Aaron during the battle against the Amalekites, most likely. So Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, who is of the tribe of Judah. "And I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with skill, ability, and knowledge of all kinds of crafts, to make artistic designs for work in gold, silver, and bronze, to cut and set stones, to work in wood, and to engage in all kinds of craftsmanship. Moreover, I have appointed Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, of the tribe of Dan to help him. Also, I have given skill to all the craftsmen to make everything I've commanded you, the tent of meeting, the ark of the testimony with the atonement cover on it, and all the other furnishings of the tent, the table and its articles, the pure gold lampstand and all its accessories, the altar of incense, the altar of burnt offering and all its utensils, the basin and its stand, and also the woven garments, both the sacred garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments for his sons when they serve as priests, and the anointing oil and fragrant incense for the holy place. They are to make them just as I have commanded you. Exodus 31, 1-11. Whew, that was a mouthful. I was joking with a friend yesterday about math and my loathing of anything to do with numbers. And I said, math is not my spiritual gift. And I said it kind of tongue-in-cheek with the intention of communicating with a little bit of humor that I understood that the Lord works through the gifts of the Spirit. For instance, the 5 spiritual gifts listed in Ephesians 4:11, it was he who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, some to be teachers, and some to be pastors. And that he doesn't necessarily work through gifts of math and adding and subtracting and multiplication. And who in the world ever introduced letters into math? Anyway, so when I read this passage this morning, I heard the Spirit tell me, why are you limiting me? Because Bezalel, son of Uri, was gifted by the Spirit with woodworking skill, with the ability to make artistic designs for work in gold and silver and bronze. And Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, is gifted to help him. Why? I have given skill to all the craftsmen to make everything I have commanded you. The tent of meeting, and the tent of meeting in this context is the very meeting place with God, where the people met with God himself. So Bezalel and Oholiab were not Peter and Paul and John, or later on, they were not George Wakefield and Charles Spurgeon and Billy Graham. They weren't given, that we are told anyway, gifts of evangelism and apostleship. And they may not have even had a prophetic gifting or been able to speak in tongues, as the Acts 2 church did. But they were gifted by the Holy Spirit to carve wood and set stones and make priestly cloth, and so they did. Why? For the purpose of creating a meeting place, a sanctuary, to fellowship with God. Because that's what the tabernacle was. It was a meeting place. It was a place to meet with God. So, in the second part of Genesis 31, God tells Moses, "You must observe my Sabbaths. This will be a sign between me and you for the generations to come, so that you may know that I am the Lord who makes you holy." It's Genesis 31:13. God wasn't messing around. He wasn't suggesting this. He wasn't saying, oh, if you're tired, why don't you take a rest on day 7? It's not a bad idea. Just try it. Look at the wording in Genesis 31:14-15. He says, "Observe the Sabbath because it is holy to you. Anyone who desecrates it must be put to death." Wow. Whoever does any work of that on that day must be cut off from his people. For 6 days work is to be done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath must be put to death. That 7th day has always been a little bit of a sticky point with me, like it was with Laura. Because balancing my too heavy plate that's overflowing with too much to do, I think I talked a little bit about that yesterday, I sort of tilt my way into Sundays with divided attention. It's Sunday, I'm not supposed to do any work, but also if I don't get that done today, I'm never going to get it done. It's one less thing to do later if I do it now just a little bit. So on Sundays, the grass keeps growing and the laundry keeps stacking up and the dishes keep piling up in the sink, and it's just too difficult. It's just really difficult to see how letting all of that go is a holy thing, right? So here's where the Spirit did his work in my heart this morning. As I was staring at the page in the Bible and my thoughts were pitching a little royal fit about these instructions, he quietly said, "Tamara, it's about the tabernacle. It's about your meeting place with me. It's about sanctuary. It's about fellowship." In other words, I've been looking at Sunday as an interruption, as an inconvenience. I've been looking at it as a slice out of time that I don't have to rest. And in looking at it that way, I was not resting. I was not meeting with God in his meeting place. So God sets the precedent for Sabbath rest, right? In Genesis 1, he does a little thing, like creating an entire universe out of nothing. No biggie. In Genesis 2 and 3, it says, by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day, and he made it holy, because on it, he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. So this might be a stretch, but maybe, just maybe, God created what he did for the purpose of enjoying his creation. I know it's hard to believe, but what if God used 6 whole days to make the seventh day amazing? What if, let's just try to wrap our minds around this, what if God didn't think that the seventh day was an interruption, but rather a looked forward to event, a much anticipated event where he meets with his beloved people? And reciprocally, what if we looked at the Sabbath or at the seventh day with the same anticipation that he looks at it for us? Yeah, I don't really necessarily think we need a list of do's and don'ts on Sunday. Like, thou shalt not build a sled and slide down a hill and pick up a pig on your way by. Or thou shalt not do homework or dishes or laundry or car washing or lawn mowing or whatever it is that you've got on your to-do list. What I do think is that if we anticipate day 7 as the day that we fully revel in our meeting place with God and our walk in the garden, in the cool of the garden with him, which is in Genesis 3:8, when God is walking in the cool of the garden, all the rest of this is going to fall into place. That's when our priorities are in their proper order, right? And that's when all our work falls to the back burner, as it should. Bezalel and Oholiab did all their work for the goal of the meeting place, for building the meeting place. And they strained every muscle and artistic ability, pushing out all their other priorities as they made room for the Spirit of God to move in their work. Sunday through Friday, they used their abilities for the purpose God had set in front of them. And then on Saturday, the Sabbath day, they met with God in the place that he'd appointed. So I'm not going to debate whether Sunday or Saturday or whatever is the more appropriate seventh day, or even a specifically chosen day. I know some pastors take Monday as their day off. I don't think that's important. And if it is, God's going to show me. But I think he's more interested in showing me that there is a seventh day, and that all my energy and excitement and anticipation should be focused on that uninterrupted, unmitigated excitement of walking with him in that day. So does that mean that I can't be excited the rest of the 6 days? Obviously not. But those other 6 days are building blocks. They're stair pieces of a stairway to the seventh day. Day 7 isn't an interruption. I like to think of it as a capstone, a pinnacle, an apex. It's the crowning achievement of the previous 6 days. So that's my goal. I want to make day 7 an RSVP event. All engines go, right? He longs to meet us there. He longs for fellowship with his creation. He wants to walk and talk with us in the cool of the garden, Genesis 3:8 again. So let's not stand him up, right? Don't leave him waiting. All right. Have a good day.